Hello, welcome to the Walk Around podcast powered by JM&A Group. I'm Heather Wilkinson, joined by my co-host today,
Jonathan Jordan. Heather, I think this is the first time we have done this together. I know we both hosted, but it's the first time that Mark has allowed us to do it on our own.
So. I know, and we had to show up well for Mark's photo today, right?
I hope he approves.
And I think we did. I mean, incredible conversation with Vijayan, the CEO of Tekion. He founded Tekion in 2016, and really, Jay is focused on revolutionizing the automotive retail industry with a cloud-native platform designed to streamline and enhance the car buying process, just to make things easier.
Yeah, it was a great conversation, and he is, really committed to solving some problems, some decades-long problems, and the commitment that they have so far as to buy a dealership was really interesting to hear about.
That's right. So let's take a walk on the Walk Around podcast with Jay Vijayan. So Jay, we are so happy to have you here. Thank you for the opportunity to hear your perspective on the automotive industry and the technology and learn more about Tekion. And I just want to kind of dive in. And as we were talking, we wanted to talk a little bit about your career and your journey. So in 2016, you left Tesla as the second in command to Elon Musk at the time, to go out and leave Tesla and start your own company. I guess waited about 6 months. And the company that you were starting was a service technology company to be integrated into a DMS. Walk us through how you go from Tesla to looking at building technology to integrate with one of the DMS that were out there.
Heather, first of all, nice to see you. Good to speak with you. Thanks for the opportunity, you and Jonathan. Looking forward to our detailed conversation. So yes, let me do my best to quickly walk through that journey. So it was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun, working at Tesla, building the platform, working with Elon. Definitely grateful for the opportunity because I learned a lot about, I came from the technology world, high-tech companies. I used to work for Oracle, then VMware, and then Tesla was my first job in the automotive industry directly. So I had to learn so much, and I had a lot of fun learning. So I feel it gave me a unique advantage of seeing the problems without, I would say, attaching to them too much. So coming outside into automotive, okay, now it's been a long time. It's been almost, I'd say, 15 years, close to 15 years in automotive industry. But at that time, it gave me a very unique advantage of seeing the problems and an opportunity to build what we had to build for Tesla as a brand. And then when I looked at it, the problems were so visible. What I was fascinated is, first is automotive industry is massive. Everyone knows it now. Even people knew at that time. It's just that I don't think anyone grasped the magnitude of automotive 15 years ago. Yes, a lot of things were happening. Incrementally, things would happen. But if you think about in the last 15 years, everything has exponentially grown. The investments in automotive, in different automotive technology, everything from EV to AV. There are so many things that I feel, for all the good reasons, investments have happened. So for me, it was a very good view of how massive this industry is, how much it touched everyone's lives. Basically, you all know this. Automotive, buying a car is many times the second biggest purchase many people would make in their lifetime. It's a big one. And every day, one way or the other, we are connected to an automotive. We drive, or we rent, or we lease. There are so many ways, but it does touch our lives. So that said, for me, the bigger picture was, while we solved many problems at Tesla, I felt the industry is so big. Massive percent at that time, 99+% of the industry has been underserved from a customer experience perspective. How a consumer would go through, buying anything else, like buy it. Of course, Apple is always an example people give, how easy and simple is to, shop and buy a product. And of course, we all know the e-commerce, Amazon brought in. But automotive has always been quite complicated from a customer experience and delivering the customer experience perspective. It's not that people didn't spend enough money or time, and there are a lot of smart people, experienced people trying it. But I don't think people have brought it together. There was so much fragmentation and friction in customer buying process. I truly believed a technology platform to serve that will bring a lot of value to the automotive industry. So that was the premise of starting in the idea, even the idea behind Tekion. I felt delivering a technology platform to bring, manufacturing brands, dealers, and consumers, and of course, all the industry ecosystem partners, connecting together in a technology platform, securely delivering what consumers are looking for in an experience, or I would say, enabling the dealers and manufacturers to deliver what the consumers are looking for is pretty much the bigger picture for Tekion. So I was so convinced that this is such an important thing, decided to leave Tesla and start Tekion in 2016. And you mentioned that, I think indicated while after a few years, 2018, we delivered the service, app. Yes. And honestly, that was always, the bigger picture was always to build an end-to-end platform. It was more a test, product for us to go to market and see where do we start, right? Like how do we check? See, few things we did. I feel any product you develop, sitting in a office and developing a product without connecting to the customer, it's very hard to develop a great product. So my thought was like, okay, how do we make sure we connect with our customers sooner rather than later? So that's why many decisions we made, including testing the product with the service, after sales platform first. And then also you may know already, we used to own 2 dealerships. These were all part of the decision we made, a conscious decision we made to
I thought that was extremely interesting to really understand the dynamics of what a dealer process looks like internally. You actually acquired dealerships for a period of time. And were those your incubation spaces where you were going in and testing different technology and software to ease the process? Because I think the other... Very
much so. Thanks for, that's a great question. Absolutely, yes. It was not an easy decision. We bought those dealerships when we were a fairly small company. We were not a, $1 billion or a $4 billion plus company. We were a fairly small company. We didn't have a lot of capital. It was a big risk to take, but I felt it was worth the risk to take because, like you said, it was definitely very much so an incubation because even though we had incredible support even in early days, because that kind of indicated even the need in the industry from dealers and manufacturers, I felt my team needs to integrally know a dealership process and unfettered access to real operations, right? Being there. So in those 2 dealerships, you will see my product and engineering team, they spend tons of time. And like you said, yes, it's an incubation. Every new feature release would go to that dealership first before we launch to our other dealers. And one great example is we launched, this is right in the middle, actually, I would say peak COVID timeframe. The product, what we call it as a Tekion concierge feature, where you can remotely sell a car from a DMS, was first time introduced from that dealership. It was just literally born in that dealership because I told my team, guys, why do we need, of course, as you know, well, digital retailing was popular. A lot of people were trying digital retailing, but digital retailing inherently had a gap because it's not totally connected to a DMS and it's not a DMS. So eventually there was a disconnect, and digital retailing to most part even today is more like a lead, or you can even call it as a super lead. It never can close a deal. Basically, that means a customer cannot finish their purchase. So then my thought was like, okay, if the DMS is the system of record to do that, why can't you just do the same thing from a DMS? Why can't a dealer sell a car remotely? At that time, there was a need. And now you can even bridge that gap. You could do either way as a hybrid. So that's how it was born. So that's a good example. And yeah, I feel really, really good. That was a tough, but the right decision to make at that time.
What were the major pain points you identified when you owned the dealership that you knew Tekion, a DMS like Tekion, could solve for dealers?
Great question. So one is, I started with that one, like, connecting the customer journey seamlessly without having lots of tool attached. And every tool, even if you attach, it has to really support that seamless customer journey. So that's why we ended up developing the concierge feature. So that you could still work with the digital retailing, but if it doesn't give you the seamless experience, then how do you connect the customer journey? What do I mean by that, right? So a customer comes in, does a test drive, which is very important part of the buying process, right? So they come in, they get all the information of the car, but at the same time they want to go back to their home and consult with their family, their loved ones, and then still do the deal without having a lot of pressure. Now, until the concierge feature, you can't do that, right? So you can't. So now, things like the pain point where you connect the customer journey, doesn't matter where they start the journey, where they end. So they could start the journey on the website of a dealer. Mm-hmm. They could end it at the dealership, or they could start it at the dealership to look at the car, look at the product, do the test drive, but go home and close the deal from sitting at their couch or maybe from their work, whatever it is. The dealer should still be able to walk through the whole thing, present the deal sheet, present F&I menu options. Many things can be done, and we call it as a virtual, walkthrough with the customer. So that's kind of what we deliver. So pain point number one, and for what you asked, pretty much solve the fragmentation in a customer journey. Even you have to work with other tools, but not for just adding tool, how those tools can truly help, seamlessly connect the customer journey. If you, have a tool that just adds more friction to the customer journey, honestly, you shouldn't be using that. So that's the idea. So first pain point is reducing the friction in the customer journey. By that, reducing the time that the customer goes through in a car buying process or an after sales process. And then finally, more transparent, simple experience. So as you may know, on the service side, all surveys would show very clearly customers value the most is their time, not really the money, right? In a grand scheme of things, we all know Apple has shown the example. There are many products out there which are common where people wouldn't, if you give them a great experience, people would pay, more for that experience and transparency. So that's the second big problem.
And that also addresses not only from the end consumer, but dealers. Time is very important to dealers.
Exactly. Efficiency. That's exactly my third point I was going to. So spot on. Yes. So it's very important, right? For dealers, time is money. And of course, they do spend a lot of money to run the operations. So efficiency is very important. So what happened, another thing we noticed was there was this inefficiencies because of disconnect between departments. There were a lot of things that were done quite manually between departments, but people are used to. So they'll, take a paper and walk from, service advisor booth to all the way to the shop floor. Okay, so I'll tell you, when I walked through Longo Toyota, right? So largest, dealership in the country, and arguably in the world. And man, that dealership is so big. You can think about every day service advisor or parts clerk walking from their main area, wherever they work from, to all the way. The shop floor is massive.
Getting on golf carts.
Exactly. Golf carts, sometimes walking. And honestly, it was so gratifying for me once we went live. A month after, maybe month and a half, I walked through the floors and I went to the shop floor and spoke to the technicians. Honestly, I asked them, like, okay, as you know, it's hard. Technicians, for all good reasons, they're all busy on their work and they have to be busy. And I asked them, okay, what do you like about the platform. How has it been? The first thing they brought up is, yes, we honestly didn't have to walk or take a cart for miles a day. So they said that was a big operational efficiency for us. Everything is digital now. Now we have a wish list, Jay, for your team, what we can ask next to make things easier and better. And that was very gratifying for me to see, because they truly, it's time is money for them and for the dealer. So in the bigger picture, like you said, operational efficiency is another one I feel was so important that we solved, and we keep fine tuning more and more today.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Jay, it's interesting because like we're on our side, we're thinking about a lot of the same things around, obviously we're very focused on F&I, and when you dig into F&I and the consumer experience, on the surface, you can make a lot of assumptions about what the problem is, but it almost always goes back to time with the consumer and with the dealer and with the F&I manager or salesperson or whoever's facilitating that process as well. I'm interested though on the dealer side, and kudos to you, like to go out and buy a franchise dealership, like what a commitment to say like, hey, I really want to understand this space. What surprised you the most? Like, what did you learn after you did that to say, hey, this is different than what I thought it was?
Well, the first thing is got a grasp of the risks of the business itself, right? How regulated the industry is, and then how much risks it carried around. And definitely my respect for dealers only went up, like how they're navigating all of these, still want to do the right thing for consumers. Still, as of any business, you have to still be profitable. So you have to be profitable. That doesn't mean you have to compromise anything else. Of course, not compromising the customer experience. So there were quite a few things. So one is how complex the business is, and the second is risks involved. The third is over a period of time, and I felt people have added so many processes, all with good intention, but I don't think people ever went back and looked at, okay, this was probably relevant like 5-10 years ago. Do I still need to do this step? And they've built so many processes around their like whatever, legacy systems and or systems, probably 20 different systems they've used, built around it. And I felt it is still a difficult journey, because if someone, is used to doing something for 20 years, 30 years, it's just built into their muscle memory, however complex it is. So the change management part is still quite difficult, but honestly, it's worth it. And people who have, thousands of dealers who have gone through that see the value, incredible value on how you can still do things simple. It just takes that initial effort to go through that change, have a paradigm shift, making things simple. Like, for example, we talked about, you mentioned about the F&I and sales, how you can present, deals remotely, how you can have a very simple deal jacket where everything is in one place, everything about customer information about the deal. You can still make it very, simple and compliant for going and looking at it. On the service side, having one thing I thought about, and which is working phenomenally well, because before that, I know there were people who tried doing like iPads in the service lane. Mm-hmm. And anywhere I went, to most part, it didn't work. And I would say almost like 99.9% didn't work. People just tried to make it work. There are people I've seen, service advisors used to have their iPads as, coffee holders. They'll just keep their coffee mug on iPads. I was like, okay, what happened? Oh no, it never worked. So we just at least some use for it. So I just keep my coffee mug on it. So
sounds like value in the technology that's available to them, that they actually use it, is a fundamental key aspect that I've seen and I've heard about Tekion. Is that?
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. See, the thing is making it easy in day-to-day life. And because you don't want to we don't, that's why things that fundamentally we shifted is we don't do, proprietary hardware devices, because making it easy for dealers is very important. Like we don't sell printers. They could go buy any printer. We have a recommended list of printers, so that it's easy for dealers to operate. It's cost efficient and effective. And then the mobile phone. So a service advisor can just use their iPhone, or a dealer can buy an iPhone or an iPad. It doesn't matter which it is, but phones are so easy, because if you walk into a Apple store, many times they use their phones to check you in or sell you a product. If you think about, it's so easy. Sometimes it's just the mind shift of because phone is something we all know how to use in our sleep. We can open our eyes and we know how to just operate in one hand and within our fingers. The point is, you have a lot more now left to interact with the consumer now. So if you use your day-to-day devices, be it an iPad or an iPhone, whatever you're comfortable with, then your time is slot. If the tool works as it's supposed to and making it simple, then your time to connect with your customer, get to know what they really need, and then sell the right products, I feel is a huge value for dealers.
Yeah. What, Jay? This is exciting conversation for me, because I think, like, you're talking about problems that have existed in our industry for sometimes decades, and in some cases, what I think we get frustrated is the industry talks about these problems like it's just the way it is sometimes, as opposed to like, let's go out and solve them. And so that's just exciting for me to hear somebody else who's thinking that way. But like, what makes you guys different? Like, why are you guys like uniquely prepared or qualified to solve these problems that others may have been trying to solve for a long time, and just for whatever reason just haven't been able to get it across the finish line?
Oh, great question. Thank you. So there are a few things fundamentally. I feel we have that unique combination, and I'll come to the platform. It's more result. It starts with people. Everything starts with people. So really, as you know, being in automotive, I'm sure you would agree as well. It's a like many industry, but a lot more true with automotive industry. It's still a people business. So the thing is, convergence of very strong technology minds. I've been fortunate to be in Silicon Valley, working with some of the best tech companies, and kind of converging into automotive. My experience, converging into automotive via Tesla, and then now pretty much the entire industry. And we have a phenomenal team that we have hired from the industry from very early days. I always felt it's a hybrid. Even reason for acquiring the dealerships is that, like, we need to know the industry deeply. We need to know the problems deeply for solving. If you don't know the problem deeply, then your solution is not going to be the best solution or the ideal solution. So I think that convergence really helped. And then understanding the problem deeply, and then coming up with the true comprehensive solution. I'll tell you, early days, not even early days, for many years, first 4 or 5 years, people heavily discouraged us not to build an end-to-end platform, and all with good intentions. Some people very nicely said, Jay, you're trying to boil the ocean. There's so many companies that failed, creating a DMS. And there are some companies did it, but they just couldn't make it. They're like, still scraping the surface, small DMSs here and there. And you're trying to do too much. You just don't understand how big this is. Just building a DMS is big. And then on top of it, of course, we want to do an end-to-end platform with DMS and CRM and payroll and all. Because the idea is, how do we deliver? It's still a fair game. We integrate with all of our partners, other CRMs and other payrolls. It doesn't matter. So when dealer feels this is the best platform, they should be in a position to use it and deliver the best experience for the consumer. So what is uniquely positioned for us is that convergence of the best technology mindset and automotive mindset, right? The right people coming together and comprehensively understanding the problem and having a very strong, will and capability to solve it. So that's how we came up with the whole, automotive retail cloud for dealers, enterprise cloud for our manufacturing partners, and then partner cloud for the ecosystem partners, and how everything connects seamlessly to deliver what the industry needs. And then the other big piece I would say is truly ground up. We had this opportunity to build in the best technology stack. I feel technology is a differentiator, and it should be differentiator done right, because there is multiple dealers, and one big dealer, I still remember him saying how, Jay, as dealers, we have pretty much everything. We have the capital, we have the inventory, we have phenomenal facilities to, host the inventory and show the customers, do the test drives, and we have great people who are doing it. But one thing that is where our hands are tied behind our back is technology. Yeah. They feel that's the one thing that keeps us behind in competing with all of the newer companies that are coming in, be it in the new car or used car space, for us to compete with. And if we have the technology that delivers the same experience that the consumers are looking for, it's that we can absolutely win. Doesn't matter who the competition is. That resonated so well with me that what we are doing is worth doing.
So Jay, mentioning that, this is something Jonathan and I were talking about prior to getting on today, and we talked about change. When you're talking to dealers, large groups, if they are apprehensive or nervous about changing technology and going under an undertaking of changing a DMS, it is very difficult. It's a lot of pain. There's a lot of effort that goes behind it. How do you handle that? What's your message to those dealers if they are apprehensive or nervous about changing technology?
Yeah. I would say a few things. So first is change. You're absolutely right. Change is very difficult. Dealers, I've heard from dealers, I'm sure you have as well, changing a DMS is going through a heart surgery for their business, right? And there's a dealer, when he said like heart surgery, and himself, like, one of our early dealers, he's still big supporter on our platform.
Jay, I had a dealer tell me a couple of weeks ago it was worse than that.
Yeah, exactly. So immediately they'll stop and say, "Oh, you know what? It's even worse." It's heart surgery and lung transplant done together. It's like that big. So it is difficult to go through the change, and we have a full spectrum, and we've learned a lot. And there are also dealers who've said, like, you know what? Yes, it's very difficult, Jay, but going through a Tekion change feels like ripping off a Band-Aid or a couple of Band-Aids, which is a really nice thing to hear. We do our best. We continue to fine-tune dealer onboarding. We don't take it easy. Early days, it's not that we did take it easy, but we kind of underestimated the complexity of the change because of the platform is so easy. That's still the case. Today the best thing with Tekion is, I'll tell you kind of the pros and cons and what do I tell dealers normally. First is, the value and the worth of going through the change and coming the other side is very compelling. It is big. So because the future is changing, whether they like it or not, consumer expectations have been changing, and it's even more significantly today because there's companies which are delivering cars online, both used cars, new cars, and after sales, simple, easy, transparent. If dealers don't make the change, they will continue to keep losing business. It's more than, to put it the other way, consumers are going to gravitate where they're getting the experience. And to going back to this
where
point,
it's
that
easy for them.
Exactly. It's easy and simple for them. Exactly. Exactly right. And going back to this point, as I mentioned, that this large dealer that mentioned how their hands are tied behind their back in technology. But he was so confident, if we get the technology, the dealer was saying clearly, "Oh, absolutely no doubt. We will win against anyone. I'm not worried about the competition at all." So that, for me, is a big one. So I will mention this to dealers, saying that going through this change for the future, of course, for the next few decades, you're going to have the latest and greatest technology platform, AI built into it, because everything around them is evolving so that they can cater to the consumer experience, go through the operational efficiency. And then another important one, we built the platform is very simple. This is one of the things that we kind of underestimated in early days, because the platform is so easy, right? Like you said, a service advisor can check in a customer in mobile app. There's really most of our users at the dealership get up and running literally within matter of hours. It doesn't need months of training. But that said, the reason I said we are underestimated is dealership business is quite complex. So everything from setups, configuration, your legacy data that you're bringing from your prior systems and DMS is not good. It's very, very complex. It's fragmented. It's sometimes even huge amount of duplicates. So going through that change, fine-tuning the setups and best practices to make things easier, that is the change management that we handhold dealers very closely. And we are also building a good partner network in the industry, partners that dealers are already working with, like in their accounting office. So we are training and onboarding more and more partners so that it's not only just Tekion, dealers have other partners to access, right? Like for example, thanks to JM&A, and we are partnering with JM&A on the F&I and integrations as well. So we are building more and more partner network across different areas so that dealers have access to many, not only just Tekion, but many partners. So change management is difficult, but what we tell dealers, it's worth it when you come the other side, and we do everything to make the change as easy as possible. It's not going to be, walk in the park, but do easiest. Second is onboarding, as I mentioned. Training a new staff is easy. And I'll tell you a very simple example. One of our very large dealer groups, this was 2.5, 3 years ago, and they're phenomenal customers, 30 plus dealerships. And the dealer principal called me and he said, Jay, I've been in this business for almost 30 years. First 15 years, I ran one DMS. And when I first changed, that was almost close to 30 years ago. And he said it felt like I had to, my team has to learn a completely different language outside of English. So the key codes and key combination and shortcuts they have to learn was massive. It took almost a year and a half for them to get through that change before even being more effective and efficient. Fast forward, after that, 15 years after, I went through another DMS change. And I had to go through, that's the right thing for my business. But now, my staff had to learn a completely different language. Not again English, but not the previous language, completely different language. Say, for example, if it was from unlearning Russian and learning Chinese. That's how difficult it was. That's exactly how he said. And it went through another 1 year of 1.5 years for them to get used to. And he said, Jay, we went through Tekion change. It's been like 6 months. And I want to, definitely call you and give kudos. First time in 30 years, he said, my staff knew how to speak English and the software was written in English. So it was so easy from a transition perspective. Now I can hire people and train them very quickly who are the right people for my business.
Wow. Makes all the sense in the world. Do want to touch on one thing, and I know the listeners and Jonathan and I want to know more about AI. So we know in April of this year, you launched the AI service operations through Tekion. Can you kind of walk us through what that looks like and what's realistic for us to expect in the future in the next 2 to 3 years from Tekion as it relates to AI?
Yeah, that's an exciting topic, Heather. Always quite excites me. AI is something we've, doubled down our investments. I'm sure many companies are doing. But the great thing with Tekion is from very early days, we have the latest and greatest tech stack. We started with embedded machine learning from early days that evolved into AI, now into generative AI. There are things that we took our time for very valid reasons. So one is we built a security layer very strong. As you may already know, I just wanted to state this. I would say Tekion is the most secure DMS out there. We have the SOC 1, SOC 2 certifications. We have the ISO certification for data security, data privacy. We are in the process of going through a rigorous certification for responsible AI. There is an ISO certification for how do you build responsible AI. So that's what we've been doing. And the idea is we've built our own Tekion intelligence layer because DMS data is so, if you would call it as precious, context aware, for dealers and the industry. So we wanted to build our own intelligence securely for dealers so that you're not pushing your data through some API to public domain. When it gets to public domain, it's available for everyone. I mean, all the large language models learn from it. So we built a very secure layer, and we have a very strong, like you mentioned, we launched our AI agent for service. We have a very big roadmap of AI agents. So the way I see the future is a dealership staff should be able to eventually start working with AI for every function. So basically, they should be able to give a command to an AI agent to do their job most efficiently, to run checks and balances and everything. So in a bigger picture, the way we see it is, you have heard this term or the data point that people talk about how, a sales agent at a dealership was selling, 10 cars a month on an average 50 years ago, and they still sell 10 cars
a month
a
today.
month, right?
Yes.
In spite of how many other tools that we've brought in, right? So many tools. I feel first time in that whatever number of years, 50 years, AI has the potential to truly increase productivity for a dealer staff in all functions, specifically sales and service. I feel first time in many decades, AI can increase not only productivity, increase sales, grow the business without increasing the expense for a dealer. I'm sure you know how big of a deal it is. We ran 2 dealerships, so I know it's a big deal. Yeah. Dealers always try to grow their business, but expense also grows linearly with that. So AI has the first time in the industry, because our science, the AI agent for service is phenomenal. The data is huge. Our early dealers are showing, hundreds of thousands a month additional revenue from AI on the service itself. And we'll be publishing data as we launch more and more dealers. And we will be coming up with more and more AI agents across all functions. As you know, as a system of record, we run pretty much all functions of a dealership. And I strongly feel we will have to deliver AI agents pretty much for every function. Of course, the first goal is to how to sell cars and how to service cars more efficiently and increase profitability for the dealer, but at the same time, increase the transparency and experience for the consumer. And I feel that's a win-win. And honestly, first time, another thing I'm quite excited with AI is my team genuinely, when they present the data, Jay, this is the first time we've seen everyone wins.
Yes.
The technician makes more money, a service advisor makes more money, the dealer makes more money, and the consumer is very happy because they're very transparent. They get all the data from the AI. So I feel it's the first time there is so much opportunity ahead. We're just scratching the surface.
Yeah.
That's exciting. I've got to ask you one question before we wrap up, though. And Heather's got a fun little game we're going to play at the end here.
Sure.
I want to talk just a couple minutes about F&I and kind of how you guys are thinking about the F&I process in general, F&I products in the deal, and what are you hearing from dealers in that space as well?
Yeah. See, F&I, like I said, it's a very important one for dealers. Important one for the consumers as well, because for them it's more, of course, it's an insurance, and it's a peace of mind for them getting the right, product when they buy the car. For dealers, so far, what's been is, this. There is a full spectrum. I feel we could make it. What I mean by that is, dealers religiously go through the F&I process with the consumer. There are also, as you know, dealers feel like you don't need a separate person to go through F&I, but F&I is still needed, but you don't have to, so you can make it much more efficient. I feel this is where the technology can bridge and give that option for the dealer to still give a seamless experience, a full transparent in terms of offering. It has to be embedded in the selling process. So if you make it more frictionful, then it becomes a problem either today or tomorrow. Consumer may buy and they may still feel like, okay, I was forced to buy something which I didn't want to. So it's better for us to make that process simple, smooth and transparent from a consumer perspective, from a dealer perspective, embed it in the flow. That way it's very simple. And then, of course, the last piece you all know well, compliance is a very important part of the F&I itself. And we have, built all that way. You have a very good audit trail and compliance records, for the compliance reasons as necessary.
Yeah. Makes a lot of sense. Well, Jay, we have a ton more questions we would love to talk to you about and take the rest of the afternoon discussing with you. But I think it's time for us to take on Mark Spoto, our host, main piece that we like to get into, and it's called Bet It and Forget It. So, Jay, I don't know if you're a gambling man or not. You must be a gambling man if you just take off from Tesla in 2016 and go start a new technology. So I think you're a risk taker, are you? All right. So we want to just ask you a couple questions here and ask if you would bet it or forget it as we look to the future of where technology and the automotive industry is going. So you ready, Jonathan?
I'm ready.
All right. All right. So Jonathan, you want to ask the first one?
Sure. Dealers will adopt cloud platforms more quickly than EV sales will grow.
Bet it or forget it?
Bet it.
Bet it. Okay.
All right.
And so cloud platforms are the way to go, obviously. With
Absolutely.
Tekion. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yes. See, make things, so today it's highly secure, easy, less risky for dealers. So they don't have to maintain infrastructure, the risk profile increases. So yes, I would say it is. It's like the difference between, using an iPhone or an Android phone versus using a flip phone or a dial phone, right? I would say that's the difference. It should be a no-brainer for them to adopt and move quick.
All right. All right. Our next bet it or forget it. You want to give the next one, Jonathan?
Sure. The next Tesla, you might be a little familiar with that. The next Tesla level disruption in auto retail won't come from an OEM. It will come from software.
Bet it or forget it.
In entire automotive or in automotive?
Entire automotive.
Entire
automotive.
Yeah, I would bet on software and hardware. It's a combination, but I agree. In principle, yes, I would bet. So software is pretty much driving everything. Technology and software is driving everything, yes.
All right, and our last one for bet it or forget it. Legal pressure and public scrutiny will force major DMS vendors to open APIs or lose significant dealer business. Bet it or forget it.
Bet it. Yeah, we're launching, tons of APIs, and we continue to deliver. Absolutely, yes. So we need to keep it transparent, easy, secure, and simple.
Hey, Jay, one other question I did want to ask you, and we should have asked it earlier. What was a lesson that you learned working with Elon Musk that you've taken into your career now in the automotive industry? One or two lessons.
Yeah,
and then we'll wrap it up. We promise.
Quite a few. Quite a few. So let me keep it simple. The first is, focus on your consumer. Focus on your customer, and be relentless in delivering the best product you could deliver. So I would say that's pretty much number one. Second is delivering value and efficiency. Going back to the fundamentals and delivering value. And this is, I wouldn't say very specific to Elon, but also with Elon. But overall, that's been my fundamental philosophy always. And I tell everyone, my team, and I tell my kids as well, always strive to deliver more value than expected. So, be it your product, you have to deliver. It should be a no-brainer for someone to say, what I'm paying for is more than worth it for this. And be it in a job, that's how I used to conduct myself when I work. It's like, okay, if I'm getting paid for something, I always need to deliver more value than what I'm getting paid for. The ideal side effect of it is I get paid more. People will realize that and say, okay, this guy need to get paid more.
Well, you heard it here. Be relentless. Always think about the customer and drive value. Well, thank you, Jay. We certainly appreciate you being a guest today on the Walk Around podcast, and we wish you continued success.
Thank you so much, Jay.
Thanks a lot, Heather and Jonathan. It was fun. Thank you.
All right.
It was a pleasure.
Take care.
We really appreciate you joining us today on the Walk Around, and we hope you enjoyed the episode. Please be sure to like, share, subscribe, and follow us. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Walk Around.